Salt House. I'm Dawn, and today I am gonna walk through how to make a king cake with you. You've got the recipe in your Epiphany kit. That's the same one I'll be using, and so let's get started. To begin with, you have to get your yeast ready. You want to use active dry yeast for this. If you have instant yeast, that is also fine. What you don't want is rapid rise yeast. That yeast acts a little differently. It's gonna get a little weird. So we're gonna start by warming up some milk. We got a half cup of milk here on a medium-low pan. And then we are gonna add a tablespoon of honey to that. I'm gonna get my whisk. And you're gonna stir this up just until the honey is dissolved. You don't want the milk to get super hot, you just want it to get warm, because we want it basically just warm enough to get the yeast happy. So you're thinking 100 degrees, that's like bath water. Bath water for a baby, not bath water for you. Unless you like really tepid baths, in which case, there you go, you're all set. Alright, so that's dissolved. Let that warm up a little bit more. Wait till you see a bubble or two starting there. While that's going, you want to take your half cup of butter, cut into chunks, and toss in the microwave for like 30 seconds. You just want it to be mostly melted. It doesn't have to be completely liquid, just really soft, mostly melted. If you have a really warm kitchen and you got your butter out last night, that's probably fine too. That milk has warmed up a bit. So we're gonna turn it off and add 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. If you have yeast in a big jar, it's 2 1/4 teaspoons. If you have the packets, it's just 1 packet. So you're just gonna sprinkle that over top. There's a 1/4 teaspoon, and now we got 2 teaspoons. All right, and now we just let that hang out for a few minutes. Just want the yeast to bubble up a little bit. You can give it a little swirl, get it mixed in. And we're just gonna let that hang out, and we'll go and measure our other ingredients into the bowl. So we've got our melted butter. I threw mine for another 30 seconds because it was still pretty solid. And so while the yeast is doing its thing over there, we're gonna mix up everything else except for the flour. So we got that butter. We got 2 eggs. Pop those in there. We got a half teaspoon of salt. My salt is across the room. Alright, half teaspoon of kosher salt. If you don't have kosher salt, you just have table salt. That's also going to work fine. Just need a little bit of salt in there. And then a half teaspoon of cinnamon. And a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And then we got a half teaspoon of vanilla. Been working out. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. If you don't have almond extract, you don't need to run out and buy it for this. It's not going to make a big difference. If you do have it, throw a 1/4 teaspoon in. It'll be a nice little bonus. There we go. All right, and now we are going to whisk that up. You can use the same whisk you just used to whisk up your milk and your honey. So I am doing this in the stand mixer, which means once I get the flour in, I'm going to let the stand mixer knead the dough. If you don't have a stand mixer, don't panic. Then what you can do is you'll just mix all of the dough by hand, and then you'll knead it by hand as well. So you'll get your full workout in making this. All right. That is all mixed together. We're going to go check on our yeast. I'm going to bring it back over there. Alright, so the yeast is starting to get nice and bubbly and foamy. which means that it is, you see that? It's good and it's ready to go. Yep. If your yeast, it might bubble up a minute or two, it might take 5 minutes. Active dry yeast will take a little bit longer to bubble than instant yeast will. As long as it bubbles, you're good. If it does absolutely nothing, then you gotta try again with some more yeast, because then your yeast is not going to make your cake nice and fluffy. All right, so whisk that all together. And now we're gonna put the flour in. If you have a kitchen scale, this recipe does have a weight measurement for the flour. It's 420 to 455 grams. Measuring flour by weight is a lot more accurate. Because when you have a cup of flour, it depends on how squished in there, you could have a big difference. It could be a lot of flour, a little bit of flour. A cup of flour is not an exact measurement, is what I'm saying. If you have a kitchen scale, use that to measure out your 420 grams of flour. If you don't, you're going to measure out 3 cups of flour. But when you do, just make sure you're not squishing that flour down in there. The best way to do it is to get a measuring cup and a spoon, and use a spoon to fill the measuring cup with flour, then level it off with a knife or something similar. So you've got 420, which is about three cups. All right, 420. So this is where, if you are mixing it by hand, you're gonna get 1 spoon, just stir it up until it comes together. I'm gonna put this bad boy on the stand mixer. You're gonna use your dough hook, and you're gonna start off on a low speed just to get that mixed in. There we go. And then as the flour mixes into the liquid, you can turn the speed up a little bit. You just don't want to have a big explosion of flour by cranking it up right away. You want to keep the flour in the bowl. Alright, so we've let this run for about 3 to 5 minutes. Oops. And what we've got is a nice smooth looking dough. There we go. It's a little sticky, but it's not like unworkable. If you're kneading your dough by hand and you've never done that, all you're gonna do is just stretch the dough out, fold it back on top of itself, push it away from you. Basically just want to beat it up a little bit, get all the gluten from the flour in line and doing its thing, because gluten is what's gonna, when you bake it, that's what's gonna keep the bubbles from the yeast and give you a nice light and airy cake. If you've never had king cake before and you're thinking, why is there yeast in it? King cake is not a cake per se, it's more like a bread, it's more like a cinnamon roll actually. So you can see as I'm working it here a little bit, it's getting even smoother. If your dough is super wet and like sticking to everything, throw like a tablespoon of flour on it, knead that in, see where it gets you, and add a tablespoon of flour at a time until you get something that's nice and soft, but not sticking to everything. All right. And also a note on the butter that we use at the beginning. If for some reason you are not on, dairy is not your friend, you can use vegan butters. There's Earth Balance, there's Melt, there's a bunch of them. You can also use coconut oil or shortening, just any kind of fat that is solid at room temperature. If you use coconut oil, then your king cake will have a little tropical flavor to it. All right, so we've got a nice smooth ball of dough, and now we're gonna let it rise. So you can just need a clean bowl. I like to do it in a clear container that is taller than it is wide, because then I can see how tall it's getting. Give it a quick spray with some oil so it doesn't stick. And then we'll just stick it in there. You can cover it with saran wrap, a damp kitchen towel. I'm going to use the lid for the container. Just something so it doesn't dry out on you. So we're going to let this hang out for about an hour. Put it in a warm spot in your kitchen. If your kitchen has no warm spots, put it in the oven with just the light on, and the light will generate just enough heat to give it a nice warm place to rise. If you do that, make sure you take it out before you turn the oven on, just as a heads up. All right, so we'll see this dough again in about an hour. So it's been about an hour, and our dough is twice as big as it was when we started. So that is dough that is ready to go. So next thing we're gonna do is make our filling. Start with a half a stick of butter, 4 tablespoons. This butter is totally melted, all liquid. Pop that in the bowl right there. And then next we've got 2/3 a cup or 145 grams of dark brown sugar. If you don't have dark brown sugar, you can use light brown sugar. You just need brown sugar of some kind. Again, it's going to make a small difference, but not enough that anyone's probably going to notice, quite honestly. Alright, so again, I'm doing this by weight. If you're measuring it with the measuring cup, this, unlike the flour, you want to pack in there pretty good. Just pack it down, get those cups as full as you can. 145. Perfect. Alright. Alright, and now we're going to add some cinnamon and nutmeg. So we've got a half teaspoon of cinnamon going in here. And then we got a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Alright, and then we got a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt going in. And we're just going to mix all this together. Stuff out of the way. So this will mix together and make a nice sugar paste. Just make sure that everything is equally damp. There's no big dry spots of sugar hanging out. Although, quite honestly, if it's a little undermixed, a little overmixed, it's not going to kill anything. There we go. You mostly want to get something that's going to be nice and spreadable when you roll out your dough, which we're going to do next. So we'll get this stuff out of the way. We're going to roll the dough out to about 10 inches by 24 inches. It's going to be a big, giant sheet of dough, and it's going to wind up being pretty thin. You can help in just a minute, Maggie. Alright. Just make sure your counter is nice and clean. And then just let this guy come out. You want to be a little bit gentle with it. You don't want to totally smash it, but at the same time it's going to keep rising, so you don't need to worry about it too much. So when you're rolling, you want to try and roll out from the center outward. Get your dough going in an organized way, and you want to get as close to a rectangle as you can. I am terrible at eyeballing these things, and so I keep a little measuring tape in the kitchen so I can measure how big my dough rectangle is, because I have no big territory for how big it is if just looking at it. That is not my strong suit. So get that rolled out. That is rectangle-ish. See where we're at. So we got 17.5 this way and 12 this way. So it's a little bit too wide and not quite long enough, so we're going to fold these edges in to make it a bit more square. And then we're going to roll from the middle out. So we're going to make it nice, long, thin rectangle. In just a second, yeah. You want to help spread the filling on here? Okay. Just kind of helping it get into a rectangle shape. But again, if it's not perfect, it's not gonna, it'll all come out in the wash. This kind of thing is pretty forgiving. All right, let's see where we're at. We got 9 by 19. Gotta keep on going. Needs to be longer. So it's a little bit narrow right now, but that will work itself out, I think, as we get it longer. And if it's a little bit narrow, then it's not a big deal. So we'll just keep rolling. This is a nice thin sheet of dough. Keep on rolling. And this dough has enough fat in it that it should not stick to your counter. If it's getting super sticky and weird, just a little bit of flour down and you should be fine. Alright, let's see where this is at.
10.
10. 22, we're getting there. All right. So again, notice I'm rolling from the middle out to the edges. It just helps keep the gluten going all in the same direction, so you're not trying to stretch the dough one way and then pushing it the other way. Because then it just gets confused. As would anybody.
That's.
Simple.
What's next?
All right.
You help too.
Yes, you can help too in just a second. All right, I think we're good. Yep, 24, and it's 10 inches wide for the most part. Sweet. So we're just gonna kind of scooch the little bumps around, make it a prettier rectangle. Kind of scooch this part in on the end here, just to make it roll a little bit neater. All right, now it's time to put the filling on it. You wanna come help, Maggie? All right, need your hat down.
It's time.
Alright, come on up. Okay, so we got our big rectangle of dough. First thing is to get the filling into it. Yep, help. So just drop that in on the middle there. Oh, yeah, that's good, that's okay. And then get a spatula. If you have an offset spatula, which is one of these bad boys, that's gonna be the easiest thing to do, but any kind of spatula spreading utensil will work. Now spread that out. You gotta spread it out back and forth. And again, this is gonna be a pretty thin layer of filling when we're done with it. So we got a big area to fill. And again, like I mentioned before, if butter is not your friend for whatever reason, vegan butter, shortening, coconut oil, just some kind of fat to carry the filling that will be solid at room temperature, so your filling stays in.
And don't get out.
Yeah. Because you want your king cake to be a little bit gooey, but not like dripping. So as we're spreading this out, we're going to leave about a 1-inch border at the top of the dough. That way when we roll it up, we have something a place to help it stick closed. All right, let's spread it this way a little bit. Oh, here. Oopsie doodles. That's fine. All right, can I do a little bit? Okay.
Look, the color.
That's okay, we'll fix that. But you want to get this to cover as much of this giant piece of dough as you can.
It looks nice.
Yep, it's not going to seem like there's enough, but just keep working it, keep spreading.
Can you have that?
Yes.
That's fine.
It's just fine. Are you going to measure it again for us? Awesome. Thank you for
Well,
checking.
yeah, not for rolling.
Not for rolling.
That's enough.
Okay.
Rolling. That's enough for. How are you going to see
That's enough.
there?
Just got to keep pulling it out. So here we go. And what I'm doing now is there's some spots where I can see that there's a thicker filling. I'm just kind of scraping a layer off the top, moving it over to somewhere else to spread it out.
You help?
A little bit, yeah, you can help. And the nice thing is, this is going to be the inside of the cake. It doesn't got to be perfect, because this is not the part of the cake that people are going to look at.
It's yummy. I love chocolate.
It's not chocolate, it's sugar.
Yeah, I mean sugar.
Yeah. Does that still sound pretty tasty?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. And here, yep, again, just kind of scrape up some of the thicker parts. and spread them around onto the parts that don't have anything yet.
I'm my great chef, right?
Oh, thank you.
I'm a great chef too.
Are you a great chef?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. You would help her?
I have pockets.
You have pockets in your apron, me too.
I always do.
All right. So that is a pretty even distribution of stuff. We got a nice bare chunk at the top where there's no brown sugar, so that's going to be where we're going to seal it closed.
Off this. Off.
All right, you ready to roll it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put that up there. Put that on up there a little bit.
Here, Mama.
No, we don't need the rolling pin. We're going to roll it up into a. We're gonna make it into a, turn it into a big long snake. Now we use our hands. What do you think? So we're gonna go like this. So start from the end closest to you. And you want to roll it up as tight as you can. Yeah, I'll get the starter for you.
Let's do it together.
Yeah, let's do it together. That sounds good. And so just work from
Look, Mama.
side to side. Good work. Work from side to side. Keeping it nice and tight. Oh, we just want to roll it from the bottom. Yeah, there. Oh, good work. Yeah. Roll, roll, roll. There we go. And then when you get to the top, what we're going to do is get a little bit of water.
I have to fill that. Fill this right up. Fill that up.
And this water is going to act just like glue to help keep this shut, to seal it shut. There we go. Put a little bit on the edge there.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, and now we're going to roll it all the way over the top. Roll it all the way up. And
My hands are wet.
yeah, then roll it back towards you a little bit, picking up that bottom layer and just press that seam shut. That way it stays shut when you bake it and all of your filling stays in the cake. All right, so if you haven't already, now would be a good time to get a cookie sheet out and either put a silicone, a sil pad on it, or a piece of parchment paper, or a piece of foil, something so that it's not gonna stick. So now, you could stop here, you could put it into a big ring, put it on your cookie sheet, and let it rise again, or you can get fancy with it. Take a sharp knife or a bench scraper, and we are just gonna cut it right down the middle.
Please, I do it.
You wanna help? Push, push, push. Yeah.
It's ready.
And then you're gonna open it up so you can see the inside. So you can see all of your delicious layers of cake and cinnamon and sugar.
Did you eat it?
We gotta cook it first, kiddo. It's gonna be a lot better if we cook it. And then what you're gonna do is you're going to twist these over each other. So you're gonna make like a long,
I know how to do it.
a nice long. You know how to do it. You wanna help?
Yeah.
Okay, lift it up and over. Yeah, and keep that.
Snake part?
Yeah, you're gonna keep the cut side facing up. All right, it's been about an hour. About 20 minutes ago, I turned the oven on to 350, so that's nice and warm and ready to go. And our ring has gotten nice and risen and puffy here. So we are just gonna take an egg yolk, mix it with about a tablespoon of water, and we're gonna brush this on top of the cake. The biggest thing this does, it just makes the top of the cake look nice and golden brown when it's done baking. If you forget this part or just want to skip this part, it's not going to hurt anything. It'll be fine. Your cake will still be delicious. So, got my egg wash, got my pastry brush. Just going to brush this all over. Here, This is going to go in the oven about 25 to 35 minutes, and we'll see it when it's done baking. Alright, this has been in the oven, it's cooked, it's nice and golden brown and delicious. You can see we lost a lot of the filling around the outside. Totally normal, not a big deal, don't worry about it.
I'm gonna do the music again.
I'm going to this cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, and now I'm going to move it onto a cooling rack to finish cooling. And then once it is totally cool, completely room temperature, in a couple hours, we will put the baby in and put the frosting on it. You just want to get a spatula under each side of it. Make sure you've got it completely separated from the parchment, so that way you don't bring anything with you. And then 1, 2, and go. Boom. There we go. Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Alright, so our cake is cooked and it's cold, so now we're gonna make the icing and get everything all decorated. So here I've got a cup and a half, about 175 grams of powdered sugar. To that we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla.
Got you.
Okay, can you help with the spoon? Thank you. Let go, thank you. There we go.
Should put it in.
Yeah, you get a measure, then we'll pour it in. Alright, pour it in. Yep. And then,
soft. Yes,
yeah, and then about 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. You can use regular milk.
I
You found it? Awesome. You can use
know.
milk, water, almond milk, soy milk, some kind of liquid. Do you want to pour it in? Alright, you pour it in.
How many meat?
Pour all of it in. Ta-da! Alright, now we're going to stir it up. If it does not look like enough liquid to you when you start stirring, don't panic. Just keep on going and it'll, yep, it'll all get mixed. And you want to get all the powdered sugar blended in to your liquid there. Oh, there we go, look at that all stirred in. We're not doing sprinkles yet.
Can open it. Can open it. Ow.
I'll open it for in a second. Don't hurt yourself. Alright, so there we go. So we got all of powdered sugar
No, not gonna press
in there. It's gonna be kind of a medium thin glaze. If I put less liquid in, it'll be a little bit thicker. Alright, so we are gonna get our cake.
Put these ones on.
Yep, in a few minutes. Alright, so to decorate it, I have it on the cooling rack. And I just put that cooling rack on top of the cookie sheet that I baked it on. Parchment paper and all. That's gonna make cleanup the easiest. But before we decorate it, we gotta put the baby in it. We don't have any plastic babies in our house, but we do have 4,000 tiny little Shopkins. So the girls have selected Wish the birthday cake Shopkin to go into the cake. Alright, where should we put the cake, Maggie?
Here.
Here. Alright, so the one thing you can do is put it into the cake from the bottom. And you're gonna have, just shove it up in there. That way it's gonna be harder to see from the top. So it'll be a surprise on where it is. So that's in the cake. And now we're just gonna pour that icing all around the ring. And there's not really a whole lot of science to this. Just kind of get it pretty even. Get it all on there.
Can we put sprinkles?
Almost.
I want sprinkles.
Yeah.
Oh, these
There we go.
ones.
Get it all on there. And now you see why I've got it up on the rack, because that icing is dripping down. And with the parchment paper on the cookie sheet underneath it, that's going to catch all of the extras, and it's going to be a lot easier to clean up than trying to get it off my counter.
I'm
All right.
first. Move the cupcake.
Alright, and now it's time for the sprinkles.
Here's the sprinkles.
Alright, so we've got purple, yellow, and green sprinkles, which are traditional. You can use whatever colors you have on hand or you like, or you could skip it entirely. You can just shake it out of the container, sweetie. If you do it one sprinkle at a time, it's going to take a while. Move this closer to you. Don't eat the sprinkles, Cooper. You can just kind of do some different areas of each colors. All right, there we go. Look at that. Slow down, slow down.
Ah!
Yeah.
Those are yummy sprinkles.
I know the yummy sprinkles are sugar.
Green together.
Do it together? Okay, we'll do the green together.
No more.
Yeah, we'll do some more purple in a second. Put some green over here. We'll put some more purple right in there.
That's on the cake.
Alright. There you go. And you can eat that. You can eat it now, or you can wait until that glaze dries a little bit. But either way, there you go. Now you got your traditional king cake all ready to go. Enjoy.